Hey, coffee experts. Those of you running independent coffee shops, you're always looking for ways that you can drop your costs. And we here at the Coffee Experts Club really understand that. And so we've started something called Indie Coffee Coalition. And what it's designed to do is to drop your costs on two of the things that you're probably experiencing the highest sales volume in your store. And that is energy drink and frat mix. Those two line items, we've created our own products and are offering you those products at a reduced cost so that you can cut out the Red Bull of America. You can cut out the main lines of energy drinks that you're doing and serve your own energy drink at a reduced cost on a line item that you're probably already making a lot of sales on anyway. The best way that you can grow sales is by dropping your costs and maintaining a current volume. So check us out at indiecoffee.co and we'll love to tell you more there.
Welcome to the Coffee Experts Club, where we discuss all of the insights, expertise, and drama that goes into making your passion your profession. Our hosts, Aaron, Ben, and Drew, are three coffee experts who have taken their coffee experience and turned it into true expertise. They have consulted with major coffee brands throughout the United States and beyond, providing operations expertise and growth strategy for drive-through openings, multiple locations, and everything in between. So brew yourself a cup and hang out a bit with the Coffee Experts Club.
Coffee Experts Club. We are here, gentlemen. See you guys. How are you today? Ben and Drew, fine
Great
fellows
to be
you are.
Fantastic. Pretty good.
Fantastic. I love it, Ben. Mondays, dude. Mondays are always sweet. Tuesdays are sweet. Wednesdays are sweet. Thursdays, Fridays, the whole week is sweet. And we're grateful for you to join us whenever you're tuning into this podcast. I hope that you enjoy it. Today, we're talking about something that is a little bit different than you might be expecting by way of podcast. And that is, back when I used to run skateboard, snowboard shops, we would call it biting on the steez. Who's biting my steez? And that was who's biting my style? Who's taking my stuff? And there are people out there biting on the steez of coffee shops, doing something different, beverages in general. And we're going to talk about it today on what's the impact? What's the impact on coffee? What is this new trend? And what can we expect out of it? So Ben, I'll let you kick us off today.
Yeah. It's something I noticed just recently and wanted to talk about because it's basically a play on the old soda fountain shop, which to me, I saw one in our area and I was like, who's making a drink shop? And I was like, oh, wait, coffee shops do that. So I was looking more into it, and it's the bringing back of the soda fountain, but including energy drinks, teas, sodas, coffees in a lot of cases. And then the more I dug into it, it's like, this is a large trend. It never even occurred to me that people would be like, let's open up just soda places. Maybe I don't like coffee. And so I was digging into it, and even McDonald's has their own offshoot brand of this new soda shop that's very much in the style of our drive-through coffee, but it's primarily focused on different types of beverages. There's one, I think, one we'll look at that their claim to fame is that there's 10,000 drink combination possibilities. So really cashing in on this quick, fast drink that's not just going to the grocery store and buying a bottle of Coke. So super interesting. But I thought we'd just jump in and show everybody just a couple of these things that we could talk about, what those ramifications are, what that does for our industry, like you said, and if the trend really affects coffee at all.
In the first place, I noticed them down in Salt Lake City. They started popping up these soda stands, very, very similar to coffee. Lots of them down there, getting a lot of traction. And honestly, I thought, hey, should we be taking Indie down to these guys and talking to them about creating their own energy drink? How can we begin to carve in a spot outside of just coffee? But definitely is interesting, and I definitely love to hear what you guys think about it.
Yeah, I mean, when I lived in Texas for a little while, I noticed the same thing with tea shops. Of course, they say it's tea. They drink sweet tea in the South, and
right
as far west as we are, like you said, we know coffee, and we think it's crazy that they don't have drive-through coffee everywhere on the East Coast.
Yeah,
and they probably have similar conversations about the West Coast not having soda shops or tea shops. And now our cultures are slowly, meeting in the middle and starting to work their way to the opposite edges of the country. So might be what we're seeing here.
It is pretty fascinating to think about it like that, especially I know when CJ and Lynn's from Outsider Coffee were taking their stand east, she said a lot of the resistance that she ran into was exactly that. There aren't as many people that are drinking the style of coffee that we're calling coffee here. And in their mind, they're like, how different can you make a cup of coffee? But it's funny how we feel the same way about sweet tea or things coming across this way of how how different can sweet tea be? I mean, like a
Right.
sweet tea is sweet tea. We're thinking of something that comes out of a Lipton packet, and they're talking about, no, we got something. This is special. This is something different. It's interesting. The melding of cultures.
It's
It's
so
funny because
true.
I stopped by one and you can buy the sweet tea by like a half gallon and
Oh my
gallon,
God.
you know. So and it's cheaper, tea is cheaper than a half gallon of coffee. So it's
Sure.
more financially affordable and I just don't drink that much tea. Maybe if I moved over to the East Coast, I'd drink a lot more tea.
There you go.
Crazy.
There you go. So I wanted to actually just jump in here and just show everybody. So this biggest one, this is the one that caught my attention after looking at this. This is McDonald's is what they call Cosmic. And it's a sub brand of McDonald's, and they've only got about, 6, 7 locations. But if you look at their menus there, it's all focused around this, energy drinks, signature sodas, and all of these places are about that same thing. You have all of your teas, and you've got fraps and smoothies, and of course they've got coffee as well. So that's where they're trying to reach in on the coffee market, but they're definitely positioning themselves as like we're not just a coffee shop. Like you could have a coffee shop, but you could also come here and we're way more than a coffee shop. Same style here. This is one that's in my area. Again, looks very similar to your drive-through um coffee stand, but they have just all of these, oh sorry, that's locations. All of these different style drinks, all of their different sodas. And so there's a bunch of these popping out that right when I started doing some looking into it, I was like, "Oh, weird." Like I didn't realize that this is becoming a large market. And it it feels very in the vein of, when we saw all of those self-serve frozen yogurt shops popping up everywhere. Like it was the thing. And some of them died, and a lot of them, kind of stuck around, but it's hard to tell if this is a new trend that will pop up and disappear because, coffee is king and the longevity of the coffee shop, you're talking about since the 80s drive-through coffee and fast coffee. But it's definitely something to look at, I think, as a possible competitor in our space, in the coffee space, in that they offer it. But if you go to a coffee shop, all you're going to get is coffee. You can't get anything for your kids. If you come here, you can get your ginger root, blueberry, yada, 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 and like an egg McMuffin too.
I was just talking recently to my little brother about, he asked me about, the third place between work and home. And I was like, how do you even know about that? And he's like, oh, I was reading a book that was talking about how they're disappearing, and it's not so common anymore for people to hang out at an arcade or at the park or, bowling alleys. And so these types of, or a soda shop, so these things that are now coming up and becoming more popular, hopefully in an effort to bring back that third place, because I think a lot of us need something like that in between work and home where we can socialize and meet people. And, you know, coffee is quick. We're known to be quick. We're known to be fast. But some of them, like we had some nice cafes that did have that third place in between type of feel. So I imagine a nice soda shop or, a good old fashioned malt shop.
Get yourself a malt
Okay.
shake.
Yeah.
Think too. I mean, it comes back to a lot of that whole. I mean, like that old show, Cheers. I mean, and the song of everybody wants to go where somebody knows your name. I mean, and I know that
Mhm.
in coffee, that's a really big deal that we teach all of our baristas is, hey, memorize the car, memorize the person driving the car, memorize the drink of the person driving the car. And, like we were talking to Brandon at Bentley's just a few weeks back, memorize the dog's name that comes in that car, because all those
Yep.
things are
Yep.
going to lead to more sales, are going to lead to better tips. But also it is that third place that you're talking about, Drew, right? Of like, people want to just go someplace where they're known. They want to go someplace where it's easy. They just get their drink, they exchange, some casualties across the counter and just enjoy it. But it's interesting to see, people obviously looking for that another place outside of coffee. There's that part of me that wants to be territorial and be like, sure, enjoy your third place, but it better be coffee, especially Drew, as we get ready to open up our third location, there in Belize, second one on the island. I'm like, man, because I do always work through that. Something that people have talked to me about through the years of, how do you know coffee's not just a trend? How do you know something's going
Mhm.
to last? Obviously, you get into these long leases, where you're in a 10 or a 20 or a 30-year lease. You better hope this isn't a trend. You better hope it's not Blockbuster Video that's going to go out and you're like, holy hell, what am I going to do now with this building that I was supposed to be serving? So I think it is interesting to watch different things come and just wonder, where we fit in the spectrum.
Yeah. And I think that's also a good point too. Just even speaking of these soda shops specifically, is we've talked a lot of times on the show about how inflating your menu too much can make you a jack of all trades, master of none, and you end up having so much product that you're never really doing any product well. You're doing everything okay. I think that's what has sort of solidified coffee shops as more than just a trend, because ultimately it comes down to coffee. And if you have good coffee, and if you're focused just on coffee, you do that well, that's a product that people are going to always want. These soda shops, I mean, even that original Cosmc ones, they've got coffee, they've got fraps, they've got milkshakes, they've got sodas, they've got energy drinks. So you've got to wonder the longevity of having something like that, where if you're starting one of these franchises, you've got even just like a SKU list of product you got to hold in your shop of, 800 products that you've got to stock all the time. And are you really going to have a good quality out of any of those products that you're offering? Or is this just a trend and people will go, yeah, I remember I used to go get like a blueberry, raspberry blended, Jamaica Freeze energy drink at the soda place. And it was just meh every time.
Do you think it has anything to do with craft? Because in my mind, I do feel like that's the set apart with coffee, right?
Yep.
Is the craft. And even, we've had conversations on the show with automations, right? Around machines. And, you walk into a Starbucks and you're just pushing buttons, right? That's
Yep.
all you're doing. You're pushing buttons. There's no art to a good shot. There's no art to some of the things that we would like to boast in, that we use machines that require people to be trained in a way that it's still an art form. This is still a craft. There's something you could be proud of as you put a cup across the window. It's going to taste a way that is quality because of the way that it was made, because it was pride and there was craft in that. I do think, in my mind, that may be something that sets apart from a trend, something that is just trendy. Like, how hard is it to push a button and to do a swirl in a frozen yogurt cup? You know what I'm saying? But
Yep.
no. This is something that we're really particular about our beans. We're really particular about our blend. We're really particular about the grind. We're really particular about the tamp. We're really particular about, how long, we're steaming milk, all these different things that go into a craft cup of coffee. And in my mind, I would hope that's what lasts the test of time, because I know for me, that's what brings me back to a coffee shop is, yes, I want the experience. Sure, I want everybody to know my name, the whole norm experience of coming into a Cheers and having people be able to greet me at the door. But I will say, I want a quality product. Every Sunday, I take a walk up to the little coffee shop here and I get my short, I wish I was tall. I get my short 8-ounce Americano, no room, because I love the way that they do just the pure espresso with some hot water. And I sit down and I take it slow and I just enjoy it because they do it well. And I think that when you find some place that does it with craft and does it with pride, I think that that's got to stand the test of time, I would think.
Well, and I think Starbucks really did well at first, to solidify in our culture, because people feel like they need that thing that Starbucks provided. And maybe it's just the life cycle of once you grow so large that, you become something different and your quality turns to something different. Your priorities turn to something different. I met a gal this morning just out here. She moved down to Belize and she's from Seattle, and she was talking about wanting that specific experience because she's like, oh yeah, I grew up drinking Starbucks, of course, but now we all want a mom and pop shop. We all want something that's a little bit more small and has a little bit more heart. And nothing against Starbucks, but it is a whole different experience than it was, 15 years ago.
Mhm.
And so as we, emphasize things like the knowing the names and investing in, our baristas there, creating conversation, and maybe the soda shops will do something similar, and, or whatever the Cosmics, they look like they're serving like refreshers too, like what Starbucks has done
Yeah.
with their teas or their lemonades yeah, Starbucks did us a huge favor solidifying that. And I think that's one of the things that's going to prevent coffee from just being a trend. It's provided a place of so much comfort and normalcy. And, even through the pandemic, when things were a little crazy, coffee shops, we were able to stay open because it was drive through, and so when everything was crazy, we all had that normalcy still in our lives.
It's funny that 2020 window, because we'll look at P&Ls for people all the time, and you have to stop at 2020 or even to 2021 because you're like, yeah, that was a phenomenon. Like you can't look at those numbers because the whole world shut down and coffee pretty much took over. So yeah, that was great. It was like the blip, you know what I'm saying? There's like Avengers, like now things are back to normal, and we need to realize that coffee had its day in that 2020, 2021, but it did create that third space, like you were saying, even in the midst of pandemic.
Yeah.
If that's not proof enough that it's not just a trend. Yeah.
Yeah. And I would say, I mean, it's smart to look at, I think, coffee as like what do they call it? An anchor industry but to still keep your eye on the horizon of what competitors are doing, even though these aren't coffee shops per se, they're still competing for. If Sally's going to grab a drink, she's not going to go to a coffee shop and then go to one of these places or one of these places and then a coffee shop. She's going to one place. So they're still
Right.
competing for your customer, maybe not directly, but in a roundabout way. So it's still good, I think, to even just keep an eye on. Okay, they're the trend, they're the hot new thing. What are they doing? And something that we come back to every single time is like, if you're not offering energy drinks, you're leaving money on the table. Especially with these popping up, if you're not offering an energy drink and you've got this Cosmix down the road that has 9,000 different energy drinks and they've got coffee. Well, Sally can get coffee, but her 5 kids who are begging her to take her somewhere is going to go there because they can all get their energy drinks. She's not going to come to your coffee shop. So
Yeah.
making sure that you have that energy drink at least to level the playing field is smart. And then looking beyond, okay, what else are they offering? Do they have tea? Do I have tea? And things that make sense to have on your menu. But I think always be cognizant of what the competition is doing, especially if they're not direct competition, but they can still steal your customers.
Something we've included down at De Los Mayas, and Drew, you've really piloted this. I think we touched on it maybe on a show a couple episodes ago, but fruit smoothies have been a real neat inclusion down in Belize where it's tropics, right? People are wanting maybe something a little bit fruity because we're in the tropics. We have great opportunity to get fresh fruit, so we've moved away from maybe some of the smoothie bases that are used here in the States and really leaned into fresh fruit served in Belize, which, obviously for us has been a big deal. We're serving beans that are grown in Belize, roasted in Belize, served by Belizeans. You know what I mean? Like where that's something we've really leaned into. So I think having something that's even a non-caffeinated alternative, because sometimes like even for us down in Belize, finding a decaf bean has been a real trick. Like that has been something that we've been able to nail. How can I find something that is decaffeinated? How can I find something that's a solution for people bringing in kids? How can I find something where I am still trying to speak the language of, if you come here with somebody that's not coffee oriented, there is still something here for you without, bastardizing like what we're here to do. We are a coffee
Right.
shop. It's in the name. You know what I mean? So how
Right.
can we make sure we stay true to the craft, but offer something that may speak to other people that are looking for a decaf option?
Yeah, Jarek actually with Swig Coffee Bar here did a great thing with that. I was noticing the other day, they got their dairy provider to start small glass bottles of chocolate and strawberry milk. So
Mm.
if you're a mom with a kid, especially that little glass bottle, the minute a kid sees that, they're like, oh my God, I want this every single day now. And now they're dragging mom to your coffee shop. So to your point, like you could have Sally who's brings somebody who doesn't like coffee or needs something decaffeinated, and you don't want to turn that person away, but you can also flip it so that that person is then bringing, because of your decaffeinated option is so unique or so good, they're like, I would rather go here and then bring my friends who drink coffee as well. So you can kind of get the customer on both sides of the caffeinated fence, which is honestly probably what these soda fountains are also trying to do too. Is like they probably know there's a huge market of non-coffee non-caffeine drinkers out there that are trying to capture. You could do that too, just like you said, with a unique option that fits inside your menu.
Hey, experts, we've got something really awesome that we do here at Coffee Experts Club, and that's called the My First Drive-Through Coffee Masterclass. So if you're opening your next coffee shop, I think a lot of times you may think to yourself, I know what goes into opening a coffee shop. I've been doing this for years, but maybe you've been doing it for somebody else. And maybe this is your first option of starting a coffee shop on your own. Or maybe you don't know anything about coffee and you're just like, I'm looking for a good investment opportunity. Starting a coffee shop seems like a good place to put it, and you're going to enter into it. But what you don't know is all the things that you don't know, right? And so what we've done with this masterclass is taken behind the scenes how you find your first location, what you need to be thinking about in finding a location. We give you a gift in the masterclass where it's a step-by-step process of how you're opening your coffee shop, the different checkpoints you need from coming up with your plans and talking with the city and then negotiating a lease. And then how do you build a team and what are the different pieces you need to be thinking about? It's a great masterclass, door to door, start to finish, completely free on opening up your next coffee drive-through. So check it out. It's at myfirstdrivethrough.coffee, and it's a great masterclass. You won't regret it. We'll see you on the inside there.
A lot of these big businesses, we advocate for building near, a Starbucks or building near a Dutch Bros, just because they've done their research, and that means they know there's plenty of people in the area who that's a demand for that product and can support that business. And it's good news for us that such a huge business as McDonald's is investing in this type of structure of business, because they've obviously been in the game for decades and are interested in now opening something that can bring in our, our type. It is our types of customers. I'd say it's different than the regular McDonald's hamburger, eater or Happy Meal goer, but they're interested in touching that customer base that we're already tapped into.
I mean, it speaks to as well, like that whole idea of McDonald's not wanting to pollute their brand. You know what I mean? Like, no, they're not going to just like graft this into McDonald's where it's like, what the heck is McDonald's? What are they doing now? It's like, no, we'll split this off because we recognize this is a trend and we'll try and take a bite of the pie. So that's interesting, Drew. That's a good way to put it.
And they didn't just call it McCafe. Isn't that what they were doing when they were trying to introduce their coffee? So it's a whole nother business now.
That is interesting. And you also don't get, I mean, it's not like McDonald's is most well known for being a healthy, good place to stop for dinner. So by creating a sub brand that just kind of nods at McDonald's, like I had to look it up. I was like, Cosmc, that kind of looks like a McDonald's. That's weird. You don't immediately associate McDonald's brand. So if you have a negative view of McDonald's and you say, I don't want to take, I don't want to take my kids somewhere, you get a Big Mac, I'll go to Cosmc and get my my energy drink. Like you remove any sort of negative branding and you remove any sort of positive branding, and you let it stand on its own, and you might fool some folks into coming to your location when really you're just McDonald's.
I wonder, do you know if they're going to have similar, kids areas or sitting down and hanging out? Yeah, like what do they call it? McPlay place?
Yeah.
Or if they're going to just do a similar structure as a drive-through, or a small cafe. Yeah.
Well, can I just pause real quick and just acknowledge that Drew is trying to play it really subtle, but it sounds like he knows a lot about McDonald's. You know what I'm saying? Like he's got all the exact names of everything they call him. He's trying to act like he doesn't go there very often, but that the name of the play structure, Drew, is pretty indicting, is what I'm saying.
I mean, when you're in Belize for a while, you start missing the childhood things you have.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd actually be really curious to see if I would love to go to a location. I think the closest one to us is in Texas. I'd love to see like, is it a drive-through? I would assume that they have to have a drive-through. Like they would be stupid for it not to be a drive-through. The one we have here, the only reason I don't know is we don't have a Cosmc here, but another soda fountain that opened up here was walk-in only, which blew my mind.
Wow.
I was like, you're gonna open up a soda fountain, which is just like a coffee with just soda, and it's a walk-in only. We drove by it, and I was like, I don't think it's gonna last. I don't without a drive-through, I couldn't see it happening. So I'm curious if this Cosmc does.
Is it that new build over in Queensgate area?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I've noticed some tea shops that are kind of like that. Well, obviously you can't drive through, but in the mall or in like a strip mall, with no end cap. So I've noticed more of those just walk-in style, non-coffee oriented drink places popping up as well.
And I still think, I mean, we've talked about it probably 1,000 times here. And the walk-in third wave style coffee is great when you're in a city and you have the amount of cars driving by, walking by your storefront, right? Like to be in a strip mall with cars walking by and you're 100 feet back off the sidewalk to expect foot traffic to service that's not going to work. If you're in a city on a busy street and you've got, 800 people walking by your door every day, sure, that makes total sense. But here in the land of suburbia, like without a drive-through, I don't see it happening.
Well, and I wonder if it's because people are moving to where we live now. After the last few years, people are coming from Seattle, where there's 800 people walking past a storefront a day. Population's been growing quite a bit in little old tri-cities.
I think you got to be careful for all of us. Any of us that are entrepreneurs, anybody listening to the show that you're an entrepreneur, you're probably an entrepreneur if you're listening to this, right? You're thinking about either you're dreaming about starting something. If you're dreaming about starting coffee, make sure you check out, we've got a masterclass out there, my first drive-through.coffee, a great place to start. But or you have a coffee chain, and that's why you're listening to get new ideas. I think it's a good thing for all of us to be really, really careful to make sure we ask ourselves, hey, but is what we're trying here has been proven somewhere. For us down in Belize, we brought something, first drive-through coffee to Belize. We brought something that was foreign to a country that didn't have it, but it had been proven somewhere else. And we're going after American people in Belize, so we're going after Americans abroad with the coffee solution that's been proven to work here. And Drew and I have conversations like this all the time where we're like, should we add this? Should we think about this? And the thing that he and I come back to over and over again is be careful not to mess with the magic. Like we know this works. Be really careful. Whatever you think is your new thing, as you move into this new town thinking because it works back there, it's going to work here. Ask yourself, Are all the variables still the same? You know what I mean? Like we just talked about, if you come out of a city with a lot of walking traffic, maybe a cafe makes sense. But if you're in a strip mall that doesn't get that kind of walking traffic, the
Yep.
thought that you're going to become a destination that people drive through and still get that same kind of volume, it has to be pretty remarkable. And so just be careful, because you're going to put a bunch of money into something like that. It always breaks my heart. Like when Ben, you're like, I just don't know if it's going to work. I don't know if it's going to last. Man, that's somebody's dream, man. That's somebody put their life savings into, especially if it was a new build. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars that they put into this thing. Just make sure you, man, hedge your bets. You know, like work something that you know is a proven model before you go and invest a bunch of money into it. It's important.
Well, and something that's been good news for us down here is, this might come across a little bit funny, but they actually just paved all the roads here, and they weren't paved before, you know. And I was riding a bicycle over. I don't have a car here. I was riding a bicycle over off one of the new roads that they just paved, and it looks like they're building subdivisions. And I actually was reading an article about the proposed airfield in Tri-Cities that they're now turning into a subdivision, and they're planning something like 300 homes or something like that right in the middle of Tri-Cities. So, you know, as you hedge your bets, those are things that you're going to want to look for, because we're very fortunate as things have turned out down here in Belize, but the people who are building, you know, those businesses in Tri-Cities have probably looked, you know, or gone to the Chamber of Commerce, or gone to the business, you know, association meetings in Tri-Cities, and heard what the plans are for the next decade or so. And just because you open today and it's not super busy, you know, once those 300 homes are built, those people are going to want to spend their money somewhere.
Yep. Do your market research, as they say, and then talk to an expert, a coffee
Talk
expert.
to an expert.
I
Which is
know.
why you're tuned in here. Man, well, as we come to the top of the hour, boys, I just want to thank all of our guests that come back here week after week. You know, we're over 50 episodes now. It's a big deal. Thank you for those of you who've come into us over and over again. We've got some great things tucked in for the next several episodes, so make sure you don't miss those. And then just also realize we have some assets. If you haven't checked them out, wherever you're listening to this, within the comments section, there's a link that we give free assets, free resources away, great new things to look into, ways you can save your coffee business. We're always big on how do you cut costs by maintaining your standards of, we've already established this kind of traffic count. How can I now drop my costs and literally grow money? We have resources like that in the link there on our link tree. So maybe check that out, because there's some good stuff there. Ben, Drew, you guys are always just an absolute delight to talk to. So thanks for being amazing. And we'll see everybody next time here on Coffee Experts Club.
Thanks so much for joining us today. For those of you who are looking to become a coffee expert yourself, we offer an incredible, thorough training online for opening your first coffee drive-thru at www.myfirstdrivethru.coffee.